Welcome to Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so very glad to have joining me a couple of people who take care of things at our wonderful Regional Military Museum. Ms. Linda Theriot, the secretary, welcome.
Thank you.
And sitting next to her, Mart Black, president of Regional Military Museum. Mart, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here, Keith.
We appreciate it. You know, we talked a lot about membership and the importance of membership, but getting volunteers is something that's really important in general, but it's really special and needed for the military museum.
Well, Keith, we really can't, it would be difficult for us to open our doors without volunteers. And fortunately, we have some who have been very steady since we reopened in June after COVID. We could always use more. We need people at the front desk. We need people to do things in the museum itself. We only have 2 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. And the part-time employee, his time is taken up pretty much all the time in doing restoration work in our shop, or doing air conditioning work or some electrical work. He's very talented in that regard. And one of the other employees handles our exhibits, putting those together, making sure the history's been researched and he's got everything written out very nicely. And our executive director sort of runs the whole show.
Right.
Many of our board members are retired, except for me.
I was going to say, I know one that's not.
And they do volunteer their time at the museum, some every day. Linda's there very frequently. Will Theriot is there just about every day. Mr. Chris shows up almost every day, I would think. And if we didn't have volunteers, we'd have to close our doors. It's that simple. And we always are asking people to volunteer if they can.
And so it's almost just as important as membership with the volunteers.
There's
it's
no
the
question.
2 things that are necessary.
No question about
for it
that.
to-
And we'll
to
train
maintain
volunteers.
itself.
You know,
Right.
we've got docent manuals. The museum is almost set up where it can be toured independently. We're working toward that. And I think, as a matter of fact, we generally don't do guided tours anymore. We don't need to. Everything is set up so that you can do a guided tour at your leisure, take as much time as you want.
At your pace. And that's one of those things that's good about one of the employees who sets up those displays, making sure that there's a great flow, because there really is a great flow to the museum and what people can do. And the good thing about whom you've had as volunteers is you've had a lot of former military.
Oh, absolutely.
And former wartime veterans.
Yes. Many people on our board are veterans, and we have had in the past, unfortunately, many have passed on, but they were all veterans, and they volunteered their time at the museum almost every day.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's awfully special to be able to see that, and some of those restoration projects. I'm always marvel at the fact that our museum is always getting things in like this.
Yep. That's an old Air Force crash truck that we found in Mississippi, and it was actually donated to the museum. Somebody actually paid for it. That is going to be restored eventually. Right now it's in our warehouse, but as soon as our shop foreman has the time to address it, we're going to, it's going to be restored, and it'll be in the museum on display if we have the room for it. Unfortunately, we're sort of bursting at the seams right now. We've got to get the 2nd and 3rd floors ready for public use, and they're not quite there yet, but we're getting there.
Well, and again, that's another reason why we need volunteers to optimize the space and get those volunteers to move forward with those projects that you need to get completed. The library itself, where they'll be able to do a lot of that research, right?
Exactly right.
And so it's so very unique. It's such a great process where we can see the person that works there who's up in the library researching to make sure that display is accurate, because everything's been so very accurate. Speaking of accuracy.
That, I'm not sure what it is. It appears to be, obviously it's a military vehicle, but I don't know its provenance. I don't know if it was Army or Air Force or what, but it looks like an old Jeep pickup that was used by the military.
And again, the interesting thing about that, you've got one gentleman working part-time restoring those things. And
Right.
it's a process that takes a while.
It really does. They've almost got to be rebuilt from the ground up. The body work that has to be done, the engine work, engine restoration, all the parts, it's very time consuming.
Well, and the fact that you guys take so much pride in things that work and things that you can show people, and the fact that it's hands-on. And this kind of echoes the importance of how you're running out of room because of so many wonderful things you have in the museum.
Yeah, those all are operational, by the way, because
Yes.
we, as you know, in the past, we've been able to use those in Mardi Gras
For
parades, and we hope
right.
to be able to do that again. We occasionally put these out on static display around the parish when we get a request to do that, and we're very happy to do it. But it takes volunteers.
Right. It takes manpower to be
It
able to
does.
do that. It takes more than just the board and more than just those people that are the 1.5 people that are employed at the museum, which I think still amazes people. They really, they don't realize that there's a great deal of volunteerism and membership that make everything work.
Look, we'll take kids from any of the high schools who need service hours.
And y'all
You
can
know,
provide that.
And we have done internships with college kids from history, from Nichols and Southeastern, and I think Spring Hill. We just had a gentleman from Spring Hill College.
Take whomever we can get, right?
We'll do it.
Yeah. Well, Linda, Mart, thank you so much for what you do, and the shout out. We want people to come and see you and volunteer.
Thank you, Keith.
All right, guys. We're going to take another short break. Don't go anywhere. A whole lot more local programming when we return.